Hi, I'm Charlotte and thank you for stopping by on my channel. Today's video is a little bit unplanned. It's not exactly what I had in mind for this week. I have been working on a vlog that I wanted to post, but I kind of underestimated the time I would need to prepare for my exams. I had some end of semester examination this month for my master's, and it took some time. And so instead of stressing myself out with the vlog, I decided I'm gonna make a video that I was planning for a bit later, but that I think is still something relevant. And this video is, it's in the title already, I assume, but it is my current fantasy sci-fi series. What I'm reading right now, what I'm planning to maybe start in the upcoming year. And I'm just gonna go through them. So as I've mentioned in my previous video, I'm mostly a literary fiction reader. But in the last year, or 2 years, mostly in the last year, I've decided I wanted to branch out a little bit. The main reason why is that sometimes reading only literary fiction is quite heavy. It's especially the one I gravitate towards. It's a difficult topic. It's lots of violence and sadness and brutality, and also often very dense, and kind of it occupies your brain. And I decided I need some distraction from that. And so I started looking at what kind of more entertaining for me fiction. Not that literary fiction isn't entertaining. I read it because I like it, but some kind of, palate freshener, kind of refreshing other kind of stuff I wanted to read. And because I don't read that many books yearly, I kind of made a selection of things which I think I will like. And then I got the first books in a bunch of series and I tried them out. And I think I'm just gonna jump in with what I tried, and I'm gonna start with my sci-fi picks because I have only 2. The first one is the Murderbot series by Martha Wells. It is a series about it's called a security unit. It's kind of a hybrid of organic and robotic material that is sold as almost like a machine by big corporations in the future to exploratory missions. But one of them becomes intelligent, becomes sentient. She calls herself Murderbot, and you follow the stories from her point of view. I really liked it. I liked it for several reasons. One, it's short, it's novella style, it's very high action. You don't get bored. It's like 100 pages of story that's fun and entertaining, which is exactly what I was looking for. Some kind of, something to divert me a little bit from the heavy, introspective literary fiction that I usually read. So that was mission accomplished with this one. Secondly, I think it's funny. It has a kind of existential humor in it because of Murderbot, who she is, what her condition is, what she's for other humans, other people that she interacts with. And I really like it. I like her voice. I like being in her head. And thirdly, it has a mystery component, at least in this one, which I thought was actually really interesting. I wanted to know what was going to happen. So yeah, that was a success. I think there are about 6 books in this series. I have the first 4, and I'm gonna keep reading them. I think I'm planning to read about maybe 2 in the next year or something like that. That was good. And the style is nothing. There's nothing big in terms of style, but it's enjoyable. Like it lets itself be read with no problem. So that was a good find. And this I got mostly on Lara from Books Like Woes recommendation. She really loved this series, and she's the one who made me want to try it, and I liked it. Then my next one is one that people have been reading this year a lot, and it's Dune. I decided to try it because it was really kind of in the moment because of the movie. People started talking about it. Then this new edition came out. At least it was very much featured last year, and I found it kind of nice. I like the aesthetic of it. And so I got it and I read it last summer. It's a big book. It's 570, almost 580 pages. But I found it fine to read. It's not as much action as you think. It's a lot of you in the head of the characters, which I didn't know about, but I really found interesting. And I'm not sure a book written now would still be written that way. But I found it super interesting and unexpected. And it's what made me want to read it on. I had also heard beforehand to not look at the summary in the back because the elements of the summary happen like 150 pages into the book, so then you get frustrated. So I didn't read anything, I just went in. And then I looked at the summary, and that was good. That was good advice. Definitely don't look it up. And so yeah, it was a very enjoyable reading experience. And I also decided I want to keep going. I'm very intrigued to know more about the world of Dune. Oh, basically, if you don't know the plot of Dune, very short summary, but Dune is a planet. It's a desertic planet that possesses a natural resource called the spice, which is kind of a crucial resource in the functioning of the society in which Dune is set, which is far future society. But it's so much in the future that it almost becomes like some kind of fantasy. And at the beginning of the book, a new family of rulers is sent to take over the management of Dune, and they have political enemies, and it's about political machinations mostly and intrigues. And you follow this new family. They call the Atreides family. We mostly follow the mother, Jessica, and her son, Paul Atreides, who becomes kind of the hero of the story. And here I plan on reading at most the first 6 books of the Dune series, which is kind of the original series. I've picked the next 2 because I was super into it at the end. I wanted to buy all 6, but then I heard comments from people. I talked with people who told me that the tone kind of changes through the 3rd book. And so I decided to just pick the next 2 and see how I feel after the 3rd to see if I want to keep going and read the first 6. And this, I think I plan to read 1 book a year for the next 6 years. I mean, I'm in no rush. The series finished like 30 years ago, so, there is no stress to read it. And it's nice. It will be nice to have my once-a-year appointment with Dune, I think. So this is Dune. This is my second sci-fi pick. And from now on, it's fantasy that I'm reading. The first fantasy book that I read this year was The Lies of Locke Lamora, part of the Gentleman Bastard series. This is I think it's a planned 6-book series, or maybe even 7, but only 3 have come out. The 4th has been supposed to come out for like the last 10 years almost, so we don't know what's going to happen. It's a Game of Thrones style publishing schedule that you don't know when the next one is coming. But I still decided to start, and I'm really happy I did because I really, really like this book. This is kind of a heist story, set in a fantasy world that is reminiscent of 17th and 18th century Italy. Most especially in this book, it's Venice. And I liked it a lot. I liked the style a lot. It reminded me of kind of 19th century serial novels. It felt like reading Dumas. It felt like reading The Three Musketeers because of the way the chapters are made and the way the stories evolves. I really liked it. It has really good characters, in my opinion, really well-developed characters and enticing stories. Also, it's also kind of political intrigues and machinations and secrets. But it's set in the crime world, so it has kind of also it's organized crime topic and bands of thieves, which is always kind of fun to read about. And I also like the style. I found the style quite developed. It's a bit flowery, but not too much. You have lots of descriptions of the city and of the food they eat and of the clothes they wear, and it felt very immersive. So that was really something I liked. And I found the action, the intrigue really, really good. Like, I just wanted to know what was going to happen. I read this very quickly for a book of this size, and I was very satisfied with the ending. And when it comes to violence, this is also something I'm kind of wary about, because too much violence is not really for me. But in this case, there are some violent moments, but usually they're well delimited. So it will be a paragraph or maybe half a page when it gets a bit gory, but then it goes back to normal. So that, for me, that was perfect. And also in this society, what I really appreciated is that it is a society with gender equality, which is nice to read about. I mean, I know that in a lot of fantasy books, not by experience, it's something I have heard, but that when it replicates kind of medieval or historical settings, then you will have gender inequality and women will be put in roles that are inferior. And it's kind of a question of why, because I mean, this is fantasy. You can basically make it whatever you want. And in this case, the author very quickly establishes the fact that women have also prominent places in politics and government and like managing the society. And so it makes for kind of a more diverse cast and also interesting games, because the fact that the character is a woman doesn't mean that she won't have an important or central kind of political role, which means that people are very multifaceted, which makes this book interesting, I think. And then the last one that I read until now is a book that I started this year, and it is A Natural History of Dragons. That is the first book of the Memoirs of Lady Trent series, which is it's also historical fantasy, reminiscent of 18th century Europe, especially England. So think Jane Austen. And but in this world there are dragons, which are part of the natural animal world. They are known creatures. The hero of this story, which is written in a memoir style fashion, is Isabella Trent, Lady Trent, and she's a natural historian obsessed with dragons. And so I think in this book and in the following volumes, we will follow her different adventures going to observe dragons in different parts of her world. And I like this as well a lot. It's definitely entertaining. It has a lot of humor in the narrator's voice. She's not a perfect person at all, but she's also very aware of her flaws, and she jokes about them, which makes her very sympathetic to us. and I like the story. I like the adventure. The style was also, again, it was nothing crazy, but it was enjoyable. And I think because of the voice, because of the style of narration, it makes the book very engaging. It makes us want to go on. It's also quite short. I think it's maybe about 300 pages, so it's quite easy to read. It's, yeah, in a few days it's done for me. So I think I will go on with this series as well. It's a lot of fun, and it's a perfect break between two heavier reads. And it has very nice illustrations, not only on the cover but also inside. It has beautiful drawings. And this one, hand drawn. Very nice. Okay, and so those are the books I have already read, the series I have already started. All of them until now have been successes, so I'm just gonna go on reading them as long as I like them. For most of them, I've ordered at least the next, if not the next few volumes. And those are, most of those, except for maybe the first one, except for maybe Murderbot, I will read, I think, about maybe 1 volume a year. That's kind of my plan. And then I have an additional book that I haven't read yet, which is A Master of Djinn by Peter Djèlí Clark. This is set in Cairo. I think it's mysteries set in a version of probably also 1920s Cairo that involves supernatural beings. And I am very curious about it. I've heard lots of good things. I've mostly heard good things from Lara from Books Like Wow as well, but I trust her judgment at least until now. Everything she's recommended that sounded good to me and that I have read, I have liked. So I want to try this one. And this is, so The Master of Djinn is the novel, but there are 2 novellas that go with it that I think are available as ebooks that I want to try as well. So this is something I will try probably this year. I don't know if I will start with the novel or if I will start with the novellas. We'll see what happens. This is something I have in my plans as well. And finally, there are 2 more series that I want to try. I don't know if it will be this year or if it will be later. The first one is the Amberlough Dossier, which is, again, kind of a historical fantasy. I think it might be a bit steampunky, kind of. It's a spy thriller set in an alternative version of the 1920s and 30s, I believe in Germany. So it has to do with the rise of fascism and nationalism, but there are some fantastical elements to it. And it's set a little bit in the city's underground. That's what I know about it. It sounded good to me when I heard about it, so I'm just gonna try it. I think it's a trilogy. It doesn't seem to be too long books. Also around like maybe 300 to 400 pages. That's something I have in my back pocket as plans. And then the last one is the Wayward Children series, which are novellas. They're kind of interconnected novellas about children who traveled through portals to other worlds. And I heard it's supposed to be quite poetic and a bit symbolic. And it just, what I've heard about it sounds good to me. So I'm gonna start them at some point. Again, I don't know if it will be this year. It might be next year. And it's an ongoing series. It already has 7 volumes, but since they are novellas, I think it's kind of nice because I could fit them here and there. I could read 2 or 3 in a year. So that's that's my last plan for fantasy series I'd like to try. Okay, and that was all for me, and that was all for today. If you have tried those series, or if you know any other that are in kind of in this style and that you think I might like, please let me know in the comments. I'm looking forward to see you in the next video. Thank you and good night.